2 new councillors, most of this will be new. So basically, the purpose of the Housing Accelerator Fund, I'll call it the HAF Fund, it provides incentive funding to local governments, and it's meant to remove barriers and support the development of affordable, inclusive, equitable, and climate resilient communities. There's a lot of things that are very, very unique about this program. First of all, it is one of the first that goes directly from the federal government to municipalities. It is not similar to others where you would have for example, the infrastructure fund, the bilateral agreement on infrastructure, where we have to get a provincial buy-in. There's none of that with this. It is 100% direct to the local government. More about that in a few minutes. There were 2 streams of applications. First, the large urban stream. Second was a small rural northern indigenous stream. We had to apply under the large urban stream. What that means is that our application had to be the same as what an application that came from the City of Toronto or the City of Calgary. It was very detailed and very data-based. Round 1, there were 2 rounds of applications. The first round, where there were over 544 applications received, with only 178 applications approved for funding. The budget for that was $4 billion nationally. We were not successful in the first round. The second round, the application window was open from July 13th, 24 to September 13th. We had 60 days to react to this, and it was only available to previously unsuccessful applicants, of which we were one. The budget for this was an additional $400 million added into the fund. Of the 366 eligible applicants, 235 reapplied for the HAF2 funding. There were 2 key differences between round 1 and round 2 that CMHC introduced. First of all action plan initiatives for round 2 had to align with the 10 HAF best practices. In the document that I circulated, it was a memo that I created back in August of 24, I believe, and you will see the 10 HAF best practices attached to that CMHC had defined. In the first round, it was suggested that 4 units as of a right be included. Key word there, suggested. In round 2, it was added as a commitment to implementing 4 units as of right bylaws. What that means is that without that being in there, it was a no-go. If your application was not, if that was not one of the initiatives, then your application would automatically have been turned down. What we were able to do as a city is one of the communities across Canada that was able to get a variance approved, to the application. And in our case, the 4 units as of right only applies to fully serviced areas within the city. So if you have water and sewage, that applies, which is a significant difference for us because there is, relative to the total area of the city, we have a relatively small area that is fully serviced if you look at the city as a whole. But I must say that when this bylaw is enacted, if council chooses to do that, if water and sewage is introduced down the road to other areas, then it would apply to those areas as well. The results of the HAF2 application, 52 of the 235 round 2 applicants were successful. What was interesting, and I tracked this in great detail, certainly the mayor knows that, and the other members of the Affordable Housing Committee knows this. I tracked this from day 1. And actually our acting city manager and treasurer knows as well. What was really interesting in the HAF2 is that 27 applicants from round 1 were given bonus funding as top performing communities. They received about 10% more than what they had originally received. For example, the City of Calgary got almost $23 million in addition to their original application. There were cities in New Brunswick that got it as well. St. John, Fredericton, Bathurst. I believe even Caracat got a little bit. So part of that 400 million additional funds was given to previous applicants. But Miramichi was successful. That's the important thing. Now, a little bit about the application process. This is another thing that was very, very unique about this program. In the approximately 13 years that I have been doing funding applications for the city of Miramichi, and in some cases for other community organizations that were approved by the city, we did not, the city did not apply for 5 cents in funding. Normally, in an application for funding, you tell them what you want. Not the case here. We provided them with data on the application process, during the application process, that was based on our needs, that was based on housing needs assessments that we had done and documentation that we had done. And those housing needs assessments were done on existing planning data, what was being built at this point in time, what our needs were based on population growth, and all of the other studies that we did. And the numbers weren't just picked out of the air. What happened, and this the application itself, and I don't expect you to see the details of this, but this is only part of the application. The details on this application were amazing. But the way that it was calculated, the way the dollar values were calculated, was based on this process. And I tried to simplify it as much as possible. Basically, Canada Mortgage and Housing took the existing building permits that were being issued in the city of Miramichi. For example, and I'm picking this number out of the air, we are going to build 100 new units in 2025. We're going to see 100 new residential units being built in 2025. We then had to project what we felt were the additional units that would be built if we got half funding. So let's say we're going to build another 25. Our contribution was based on the 25 additional, not the first 100. And this was broken down into a number of different categories. Single family, multifamily, townhouse, missing middle, which is a big buzzword, all different types of housing. Then through a very complicated formula, Canada Mortgage and Housing, this application actually, because it was all done online, the application would spit out an amount that we qualified for. Because I know some of you had heard numbers between $12 and $15 million that we qualified for. So what happened in our case, we received roughly $3.1 million. What Canada Mortgage Housing did is they looked at our projected numbers and they reduced those numbers. Not the 100 that we're going to build, but the 25 that would be affected by the half initiatives. Never before have I seen something done in that manner. Our $3.1 million will be payable in the amounts that you see right there. We've received our first advance on the signing of the contract, approximately $781,000. On the next 3 anniversary dates, 26, 27, and 28, we will receive an additional $781,000, providing that we have made progress on our initiatives. The 4 units as of a right is a deal breaker. If council chooses not to approve that, then everything after that is gone. And they will ask for the first $781,000 back. There is documented evidence of that from other communities who had to pay back, in some cases, upwards of $20 million. So all the other initiatives we have some wiggle room with them. And as long as we're showing progress, we're good. But again, the reporting is very, very detailed. 8 initiatives that we have. First of all, ADU zoning campaign. Canada Mortgage and Housing is saying we can have an initial 10 units over the next 3 years. So that's 10 ADUs over the next 3 years. Infill housing, 12 units. our infill housing incentive program, and I'm not going to get into the details of these because the document that I gave you outlines what all of these initiatives are. End exclusionary zoning by allowing 4 units as of right. That's the big one. That's the deal breaker. Housing inclusion in regional commercial zoning designations, 22 units. Remember, all of these number of units are over 3 years. Creation of a workforce housing incentive program, 9 units. 42 units for pre-approved plans. Integrated housing and infrastructure accelerated incentive policy, 11 units. More about that one later. And completing a housing needs assessment. Our application was based on a housing needs assessment that we did 3 years ago. By the time we're into this program, another 2 years, we will require a new one from Canada Mortgage and Housing. They have given us that. They added that one into ours as a requirement. Total, we'll be projecting 109 units over the next 3 years. That 109 is the number that was reduced down by Canada Mortgage and Housing. Our number was significantly higher than that. That's how we felt that we qualified for in that 12 to 15 million range. Now, these are goals, right? Now, over the next 3 years, our goals is to reach 485 new units over 3 years. That includes the 109. So basically what we have to do is we have to produce 376 existing units. This is the stuff that's was coming out anyway. And then because of the half initiatives, we're going to add another 109 into that over 3 years. Now that 376 units might sound like a lot, but you look at what's going up in the Gretna Green area right now, and that's 100 units alone. So those statistics will be reflected as part of our reporting. 356 of these units have to be the missing middle. The missing middle is it's a nice buzzword or term that Canada Mortgage and Housing uses. The missing middle are duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. They're row houses. They are low-rise multi-units, 4 stories or less. So those are all. We're saying that 356 of those 485 are going to be missing middle, and about 1/3 of all of the units produced will be affordable. This is all reflected in our contractual agreement with Canada Mortgage and Housing. Now, as part of this process, and this was done prior to the signing of our agreement, there are deadlines for each one of the 8 initiatives. And I wanted to include these so you would know the timelines that we're talking about. The ADU zoning campaign, we have to have that in place by February 28th, 26. Our infill housing program, September 30th, 25, which is the easiest one of all of our incentives to achieve. 4 units as of right, February 28th, 26. We have to have that in place. The housing inclusion in regional commercial, April 1st, 2026. When I designed these, when I worked these out with Canada Mortgage and Housing, I tried to take into consideration the normal procedure that we have for rezoning and reflected that so that we wouldn't be behind the 8 ball. November 30th for the next one, February 26, February 27, and March 27 for the last one. So basically, we have ample time to achieve what we need to achieve. Regular meetings are being held, team meetings with Canada Mortgage and Housing. They are monitoring our progress on a quarterly basis, I will say. But the first reporting that I have to do, and I've been told just recently that I'm responsible for this, will be at the end of August. And then after that, it will be yearly on our anniversary date, which is at the end of March. So, we got $3.1 million. What are we going to do with it? This is where it gets interesting as well. Never seen a grant like this before. This is the acceptable use for this $3.1 million over the next 3 years. First of all, any costs on the half action plans. Anything that was involved, for example, Let's say on our incentive programs, our 3 incentive programs are going to cost us $150,000 a year. Well, we can take that out of that 781 each year. If there are administrative costs, if we decide, if management recommends to council that we hire an administrative person to handle the reporting of this and the administration of this, the cost of that individual can come out of that $781,000 a year. Those are just two examples that I'm pulling out of the air. Any investments in affordable housing. This one really doesn't apply to us because some communities actually build their own affordable housing. St. John is one, for example. St. John Housing Authority is a commission of the city of St. John, at least for now. I heard that they were going to get rid of it, but anyways. So if we were involved in building affordable housing, which we are not, like directly, hands-on, we don't own any affordable housing. So that one really doesn't apply to us. The last two, investments in housing-related infrastructure and community-related infrastructure that supports housing, I want to get into in a little bit more detail for you. First of all, investments in housing-related infrastructure. These are things that this money can be spent on. Drinking water infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, solid waste management, public transit, community energy systems, disaster mitigation, brownfield redevelopment, broadband and connectivity, capacity building, and site preparations for housing developments. That's all related to this $781,000 a year that we could use this for. So council has a lot of flexibility on where this can be used. The investments in community-related infrastructure, local roads and bridges, sidewalks, lighting, bicycle lanes, fire halls. I might even make a case, see if a police station would work. Landscaping and green space that supports housing. It's very broad based on what we can use the money for, and it's entirely us. Of this $3.1 million, there is absolutely no financial commitment that the city has to make to get that $3.1 million. Yes, we have to handle the administrative side of it, so there's an opportunity cost there. But I'm talking about direct financial investment. It's one of the most unique programs I've ever seen. We will have until March 31st, 2029 to utilize all of the funds that are provided. So that's a year after the program ends. There's no indication that the program will be continued beyond its current dates. And with a new government in place in Ottawa, we don't know how that will change things. So, any questions?
Thanks, Mr. McGraw. We'll open it up. Councillor Arsenault.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Very detailed. I keep saying that tonight, but it's been some great presentations. So, 2 questions. So, the piece where it says it can be used for like wastewater or whatever, is that to unlock new housing opportunities, or can it support existing housing currently?
To the chair, through to Councillor Arsenault. Supports housing is a relative term. I have asked Canada Mortgage and Housing that, and the interpretation that they are making is that it's be new housing. But no number, not necessarily any numbers associated with those new housing.
Okay.
I would just quickly add too, if supporting existing housing or infrastructure is a secondary benefit of,
yes,
of installing it
yes,
to support new, you can do both at the same time.
Right.
So if you were going to run water pipes down Wellington Street,
yes,
to Kerr's Trailer Park,
maybe
it would unlock additional developable properties all along Wellington Street. That would qualify as an example.
that's a great example. Thank you.
Yeah.
My other question, I guess is more of a comment. So although we did sign an agreement to move forward this way, that was really in order for us to start this process, to have these conversations. There is nothing locked in. We haven't spent the money. We're just like, we are still open to our public consultations and all of those things that are going to happen.
Again, through the chair to Councillor Arsenault, you're 100% right. The money has been placed in escrow, shall we say, and we still have to go through our normal processes, hence the deadlines that I pointed out, that allows us to go through the processes. Some of the initiatives are very, very easy to achieve. For example, the workforce housing one, it's just a matter of revising one of our existing programs to create a new program. So there's not a lot of details involved in that. The priority that we have had is to try to put in place the zoning changes that are required, specifically the residential in highway commercial, or regional commercial, excuse me, and the 4 units as of right. And certainly the 4 units as of right is, to me, is the key component. As I said before, if council decides not to do that, then everything I've just told you is a moot point.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make that, I wanted to be clear on it, but I also want the public to be clear that there is no predetermined outcome here, that, you know, the public consultations are coming, and it is literally what I want to hear from the public. So I want to encourage people to come out, to share your views, and let's work through this, and then we'll make a determination after that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. And just to build on that too, like it's important for the public to know what the funds might be used for, as well as they are going to give us their feedback on this process, right? So, and saying that there's an open house dedicated just to these items alongside the regular process for the bylaws. Councillor Richard.
Thanks, Paul, for your presentation. I might not be the popular comment tonight already because we're running late, and I get a little bit fired up about this whole CMHC initiative at the best of times. So I just want to highlight that from a personal perspective, there's no reason why someone like myself would oppose to this. I mean, I'm in the mortgage business. A growing community is great for my business. So there's no reason for me personally to oppose something like this. I'll also remind council that while, you know, we hear CMHC and it's a big flashy, you know, name that most people know and most people endorse or are comfortable with, they're a government agency, and they're not always there to make the decisions that are best for the people. And that might not come across as comforting for some people, but many people in our industry would say that they were a big part of the problem in terms of causing housing to be unaffordable for people for a long stretch of time to lead where we're up to today. So, I mean, I encourage council to take that, you know, seriously. This program, you know, may work, it may not. The biggest part of the problem that I have with this program is it doesn't take in considerations that each city has individual needs and maybe visions that are different from city to city in the way that we want to grow. And the 4x right completely violates that. It basically takes away the controls that we have in place from Planning Commission to be able to, you know, have the people be able to voice whether they want to be able to move forward with changing zoning on a lot or not. And the ability to, or removing that basically gives no voice to the people when it comes, you know, through public hearings and stuff like that. And I know we talked about, you know, you're gonna, you know, there's only gonna be certain sections of the city and all that stuff there, but you know, I think that the initiative is to grow what they say dense and affordable housing in downtown areas. But it doesn't mean that it's going to turn into an affordable housing situation. I mean, if that was the case, then there'd be affordable housing in Vancouver, which there's not. So, you know, I think we're being sold the sizzle, not the steak here. And I really hope that council can look into that in terms of, you know, what it's going to mean to our citizens when we take away the right for them to even weigh in on the 4x right thing. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. And Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Guy, for that, because I agree with you 100%. I'm just thinking, and it would never affect me, because I live in a no water, no sewer zone, I'll never get it. But,
Councillor Doyle, maybe you just want to pull your little thing out just a little bit there.
okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. It's, I'm just going to just kind of paint a picture of a subdivision, and let's use maybe McWilliam Street or Waverly or one of those. Those houses are probably in the vicinity, and I have a real estate agent beside me, but a lot of them are probably in the vicinity of 450 to 700,000. And all of a sudden, there's a 4-unit apartment building built beside them, or in between two of those houses, and it will not be owner occupied. And I just think they've invested a lot of money in their property, it's their equity, and it would drive the price of their houses down. And I think they built in those places because it was a residential area and zoned residential. And now, 10, 15 years after the fact, that we're going to change that. And we're talking, the Economic Development Officer was talking about Calgary, and that's a different situation. That's 1 million people live in Calgary. We're down to 18,000, so there's no comparison. And Councillor Richard is absolutely right. There's decisions made somewhere in Ontario, and we're just a dot on the map, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I can't see that there's any uptake to this except send the money back.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harris?
Yeah, I'll follow up. Thanks, Paul, for the presentation. We went through it before, but it's great to be updated again because, we talked about it here a couple weeks ago. Obviously, the 4 units, something that's not sitting right with me. And also, this week, I saw the Mayor of Windsor come out, had a big article in the National Post about it. And just a couple of days ago, the City of Toronto voted this down on sixplexes. So out of their 471 million, they're only going to lose between 25 and 30 million. It's not even 25%. So, and the minister, what's his name, for housing anyway, gave them 6 months to get it back in line. But the City of Toronto has been crying for housing for years, and that's what we've been hearing about. But they're turning this away. And I think probably a sixplex in Toronto is maybe comparable to a fourplex in Miramichi. I don't know. But I mean, there's a reason for that. So I think this program is going to change. I really do. I've said this before. There's a new government place. Things are changing in different cities and different communities. And I'm waiting for the public to weigh in on this. I'm waiting to hear back from our economic development, to say what our rules and regulations are going to be around this. And I'm waiting on that before I make a decision. But when I see a city the size of Toronto, and us comparing ourselves to the city of Calgary, and they're turning it away, there's a reason this is happening. So not sure it's all as good as we think it is and we want to be made, but $3.1 million will not get us to 2029. It probably wouldn't get us to 2026 if we started to do some development. So not big on the number, Tom.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll just speak on the item as well, and I'm not going to litigate or debate the 4 as of right tonight because we have a process that's in place to do that. I will say, just to clarify Councillor Doyle's comments, it wouldn't be a 4-unit apartment building. That's not what's being proposed here. So let's get that information in the process, and we can have, again, that debate, hear from the public as we go through that. I just do want to take a moment to highlight, and by the way, I'm also not a big fan of them telling us we have to do this to get that. Just already said it earlier tonight, we are already underfunded from an infrastructure perspective. I don't like this, you have to do that. That said, if we are able to get over that hump, as Mr. McGraw has pointed out tonight, we'll have $3.1 and change million that we can do whatever we'd want within these very broad terms to facilitate the development of these housing. And I just want to point out a couple of the initiatives, because again, the working group for affordable housing, which has members of council, members of staff, members from planning, took a lot of time over a lot of months to think about how could we use this money effectively. So again, aside from that one condition, what we're proposing we would use the money for includes refunding building permits for all housing, including single-family housing that is built in serviced areas of this city. So anybody's building permit would be waived if you're building housing of any type in service areas of the city. Incentives for accessory dwelling units, we know that those are very affordable housing units, particularly used by students and seniors. That was captured in the needs assessment. The incentive for workforce housing would be an extension of our current affordable housing incentive, which would extend that to not just subsidized social housing units, but regular market affordable housing units. And we would have the infrastructure dollars to connect new developments. So right now there are about 3 or 4 different projects that are being held up by RDC for the RDC Infrastructure Water Wastewater Fund. That this represents dozens and perhaps up to hundreds of housing units that are stuck right now, not moving, because RDC is going to do 4 a month and 4 a quarter, the minister just told me, and they've got a list 50 long. So you could be waiting years to build this housing. But if we have dollars available to be able to do that infrastructure directly, then we will be able to continue to build the housing we need. So I just want to point out that there are a lot of, I would say, not controversial, very positive initiatives that are associated with this as well. Again, it all does hinge, unfortunately, nobody likes on the 1 point or the 4 unit as a right. We'll go through that process, but just to acknowledge tonight that there is a lot of good opportunities and good programs that we can use the money for, that we will need if we get over that hump. So we'll debate the hump another night. Councillor Duplessis.
Yeah, you got her. Through the chair to Mr. McGraw, can you go back a few slides where it shows the CMHC's numbers based on the changes of housing units? Yeah, that's exactly it. So am I understanding this right, that CMHC, based on number 3, would anticipate that would create 3 additional units in the city?
To the chair, through to Councillor Duplessis, over 3 years, yes.
So 1 unit a year if we were
Yes.
to change that exclusionary zoning?
Yes.
Thank you.
And if I may, I just want to, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I want to clarify something that you said. When you were referring to the refunding the building permits, that is the infill housing incentive program. And to the best of my knowledge, we haven't defined what infill means yet. It has the potential of addressing, a lot of homes here, but it's going to hinge on the definition of that infill. I just don't want to give everybody the impression that you build
That's
a
right.
house.
I did take that directly from your memo, though,
Yep.
Mr. McGraw.
Yep.
So you wrote verbatim, this new program will see the refunding of building permit fees to any new residential project that is constructed on infill properties within the serviced areas of the
Yes.
city.
Infill
Yeah.
is the key word there. And
That
that's what I was
Yeah.
what I was
And the
correcting you on, is
definition-
the infill. Yep.
traditionally
Thank
is
you.
serviced areas. Thank you. Okay, sorry.
Just on, while you're on that slide, just touching on what Councillor Duplessis said. So he said 1 unit a year, but that's the minimum, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, okay, thank you. So I know we'll wrap this up for tonight. This is an ongoing discussion. Thank you, Mr. McGraw. I have been told that the next 2 items are very quick, a couple of minutes each, so we will just endeavor to go through them, I think. We are on a shortened schedule.